Welcome. This is our second meeting for Steps to Wellness, Steps to Health, Mental Wellness, and today we're going to be dealing with conquering stress. You may have realized there's some technical difficulties going on. The building that we're in just lost power prior to us starting, and so please forgive the fact that this is not exactly like it was, but we are going to go forward and make these things work. There's a couple of things that I need to share with you today before we get started, and our facilitator will be joining us later, so I'm doing a little double duty here. But if you have not registered yet, you are going to want to do that because we have 7 handouts for you today. So if you've not registered, please send an email to stepstohealthchewelah@gmail.com, and we will get you registered and we will get you those handouts that you need. The other thing that I want to share with you today is that we have a giveaway. Now, I know you're used to hearing that word from YouTubers, but we really truly do have a giveaway for you. And I will be sharing that with you later. But the way you're going to get that giveaway is by asking us questions in the chat boxes, either on Zoom or YouTube. When you ask a question, your name will be entered for the giveaway. Now you're thinking, well, do I want to ask questions? What's the giveaway? The giveaway is a gratitude journal, and we will be talking a little bit more about why you want to have a gratitude journal. So without too much further delay, I will tell you that I am Belinda Lowry. I'm a certified professional life coach, and I'm going to be bringing to you information about stress and how to conquer that. So without further delay, we are going to get started on my first presentation. As soon as I get untangled out of the mic, please bear with us. This is live, and we've had to switch what we're doing because of a power outage. But we're going to get through it because you're here to learn, and we are happy to be sharing. So the term stress refers to any reaction towards a physical, mental, social, or emotional stimulus that requires a response or an alteration in the way that we perform things. Stress can come with change, whether the change is good or bad. It doesn't matter. If you're moving to a new house and you're excited, you're still having stress in the body. If you hate your job, you have stress in your body. So that's one of the first things to understand. Now, a few other definitions about stress. In the coaching field, we summarize it this way. Stress is when you are faced with something that you don't believe you have the ability to handle. And here's another way of considering it. Stress or anxiety is imagining the future without the presence and grace of God. Now, I want to say that one again. That one really impacted me. For those of you that are Christians, this is something to think about. Stress and anxiety is imagining the future without the presence and grace of God. Sometimes we get very stressed when we are considering something and we haven't factored in God and his abilities to do things. And so that is stress. Here's a little quote I want to share with you. We are God's workmanship, and his word declares that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. He has prepared this living habitation for the mind. Our bodies are for the mind. It is curiously wrought, a temple which the Lord himself has fitted up for the indwelling of his Holy Spirit. The mind controls the whole man. All our actions, good or bad, have their source in the mind. That's why we're talking about mental wellness in Steps to Health. In the mind, that's where we worship God, and that also, connects us with those things. And so we definitely want to give that focus. So we had a little slide that we wanted to share with you today, but I'm going to tell you that it's in your handout. If you pre-registered, you got handouts in your email this morning. And that particular paper, I'm just going to show you so you know which one you can grab. It's a chart, and it shows what happens in the body when you are under stress. And in that chart, you'll see if you've got it yourself. If you don't, please contact us and get registered so you can have all of these handouts. But what happens is something comes on and the brain says, oh, this is stressful. And it sends a message to the pituitary that we need to make some chemicals to wake up the adrenals, and then the adrenals make the cortisol, which you've heard about cortisol, I'm sure. That's all in the news about health. And so then the adrenals are pumping this adrenaline fluid, and that's our fight or flight response. Now, typically the crisis passes and then the body settles down and all of these systems come back to normal. But under chronic stress, that doesn't ever stop. And what happens is you end up with fatigue. And adrenal fatigue sometimes is confused with chronic fatigue or Epstein-Barr or some of these other autoimmune things that are happening. And what's going on is, imagine, if you will, that you have a little fire to put out and you have this fire hose and you're spraying the fire, but you only have so much volume of water. And if that fire never goes out and you continue spraying, pretty soon it's just dripping, drip, drip, drip. That's what's happening with your adrenals when you go into adrenal fatigue. So chronic stress puts you in that location, in that medical condition. And we want to avoid that. So we want to work on stress. Now, we all have stress in some form or level. And while some of it should be eliminated, some of it we can't control. And when that happens, we have been designed to deal with a quote unquote normal amount of stress. And somebody might say, well, what's a normal amount of stress? Well, a normal amount of stress can vary depending on how you're taking care of yourself. The reason I say that is if you have given your body tools to be able to produce these chemicals that happen during stress, you are more able to deal with it. And so we're going to be talking about that today. Now, I want to share with you that there is a list of things associated with chronic stress. There's the low energy that we already talked about, frequent headaches, irritability, moodiness, brain fatigue, memory loss. If you're like, what is going on with my brain? I can't remember all kinds of things. Stress might be what's behind it more than anything. Your appetite changes. You might be doing teeth grinding because you've got this tension, cold hands, high blood pressure, shallow breathing, digestive issues, insomnia. There's a whole bunch of things that happen. So we want to take stress seriously. Now, stress creates an excellent breeding ground for illness. And I've already listed some things there, and researchers estimate that stress contributes to as many as 80% of all major illnesses, including cardiovascular disease, cancer, endocrine, metabolic disease, skin disorders, and things like that. So stress is not something that we just make a joke about and forget it, because it's setting us up for long-term dis-ease, because the body is constantly trying to cope with something that it shouldn't have to deal with chronically. Now, when we're dealing with stressful situations, we have a tendency to eat unhealthy, right? Convenience foods, high fat, high salt, high sugar, all of this kind of stuff. However, the problem with doing that is that these behaviors make the stress reaction even worse. And so we want to be able to change those habits. We need to give our bodies the tools that it needs to do the things we're asking it to deal with, right? And you can't expect that your car is going to drive 100 miles if you only have enough fuel to go 75. And the same is true for the body. If you only have enough to go 75, you can't get to 100, but you keep pushing and trying. And what's going to happen? Your car's going to die on the freeway and somebody's going to hit you and total your car, right? So that's what happens with the body. Now, if we can deal with stress in a way that helps us to be more mindful, then we're not going to get left stranded on the side of the road, right? Now, later, we're going to share some ways that you can add supportive food to help the body during the times of stress. In your handout, you have several different things, but before we get to that, one of the things I want to explain in your handouts is that there's going to be 2 papers in there, and they are stress evaluations. And I'm going to try to show you that. We did have this set up to show you in a PowerPoint, but again, we are out of power. If you're just now joining us, we have no power and we're making this work. So I'm just going to give you the view so that you can identify the paper that I'm talking about. That's the first one. And this is the second one. These 2 papers are evaluations. The first one looks at what's going on in your lifestyle that could be contributing to your stress or helping your stress. It allows you to do a little bit of an inventory. The other one helps you to really understand some of the things that bring stress into your life and how big of an impact those things make. You know, the death of a spouse is going to have far more points than, say, you know, something simple about getting a dog, right? It's going to be different. So you might be tempted to say, oh, you know, I don't really have a whole lot of stress going on. It's only occasional or what have you, but go through that and really get a good look at what's going on, because chronic diseases are built slowly and quietly. And if you've got some chronic level of stress happening, you are setting yourself up for illness long term. So take advantage of using those handouts. The other thing that I want to share with you today about stress is trusting in the divine is a huge aspect of dealing with stress. And if you watched our earlier series within the Steps to Health program, you would have learned about the acronym New Start. Well, the final T on New Start is trust in the divine. We can have help outside of ourselves. And honestly, that can't be substituted in any other way. There's a lot of things we can do, and we're going to talk about those things today. But when you have divine aid, that is your biggest key. And so I don't want you to miss that. If you miss anything else that we say today, trusting in the divine, our Heavenly Father knows just what we need physically, emotionally, spiritually, and He wants us to be well and fit for service for Him. And He wants to be able to help us through all of these things. We talked about that a little bit during the question time on our last episode dealing with procrastination and habit forming. How do we do things when they're hard? Well, we can ask for divine help, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. Now, one of the things that I want to talk about is that when we are stressed out, we may think that we're hiding it from others. And we might be able to do that for a minute or two, a brief time, somebody you don't see very often. But the truth is, when we are stressed out, we can't hide that. And I had a little image, but I don't know if you're going to be able to see that today with our power outage. Is there the possibility of the image? Is that able to show? No images. Okay. All right. Well, I can't show you the images either, but there was this little hamster and his hair was all over the place. I mean, he looked like he had just been rolled in the dryer. And there was a little sign where he says, "Why, yes, I am stressed. Why do you ask?" Because we can't hide the fact that we are dealing with stress. It affects how we think, how we act, how we're moving through life. And so instead of spending your vital energy on hiding the fact that you are stressed, I want to encourage you to put your energy into utilizing some of the tools that I'm about to share with you so that you can deal with that stress and move forward with a smile on your face that's genuinely there. So in your handouts, you have a document that is called 14 Simple Ways to Relieve Stress and Anxiety. And I'm just going to try to hold that for you. I don't know how well you're able to see that, but it's in your handouts. And this is what I'm going to be talking about next, okay? Ways to relieve stress and anxiety. And I just want to say thank you for joining us under these technical difficulties. So stress and anxiety are common experiences for most people. And in fact, 70% of adults in the United States say they feel stress or anxiety. Try to guess how often. Daily, right? And some of us who are living in chronic stress know that. So daily. Your first tool, and again, these are not listed in any particular order that you have to do this and then this and then that. They're listed to where you can go through and choose. But the first one on the list is exercise. Exercise is one of the most important things that you can do to combat stress. And you might be thinking, well, why? Why would that be the case? That is the case because when you exercise, it lowers the body's stress hormones, such as the cortisol that gets to be too much. It also helps to release endorphins. And you may have heard a little bit, if you've done any studying about health and wellness, endorphins are what help us to be happy. And when you exercise, it releases the endorphins, and that improves our mood, and it also acts as natural painkillers. And when you've exercised, sleep will come more easily. The body's more ready for it. And then you're not experiencing that wired but tired. You're physically ready to sleep. The other thing is, it's interesting, some people don't really think about this, but it's the confidence, right? Because if you're exercising, you look better, you feel better, and it affects your mind and how all of those things are working. And so regular exercise can help to lower the stress, even if you just take a walk, right? It doesn't have to be anything outrageously crazy, but just take a walk. The second thing I want to talk to you about is considering some supplements. Now, there are several foods and herbs that promote the reduction of stress and anxiety, which can help our bodies to manage the stress. In your registration packet, you have a link to an article. When I emailed you, the link is in the email, to an article on 4 different herbs, and the research is in that. And we'll talk a little bit more about herbs later, but I wanted to be sure that you knew that link was there and you didn't miss it, because it's a very good article explaining how these herbs can help the body. The other thing is that you have a list of stress relieving foods. And later we're going to have a food demo. And within that demo, we're going to be utilizing some of those foods. And so we'll get into that. Just a really brief overview of some of the most common herbs. Lemon balm. I really love the smell of lemon balm and wish its taste was stronger, but it's still very good. It's in the mint family. And with the lemon balm, it's basically been shown in studies for its anti-anxiety effects, right? And you might say, well, I've never been diagnosed with anxiety. It's okay. If you are feeling stress, you can use it. Anxiety is a different level of stress. Getting those omega-3 fatty acids, you've heard how important that is for the brain. One study showed that medical students who received the omega-3 supplements experienced a 20% reduction in anxiety symptoms. Another herb is ashwagandha, and it's used to treat stress and anxiety in India. And several studies have suggested that it is very effective for that. Now, there's a few more. There's tulsi, which is holy basil, and also turmeric. All of these can help your body be equipped to deal with stress and to bring those levels down. Now, some supplements can interact with medications that you're on, so be sure that you understand if there is an interference. Talk with your healthcare provider. So don't think you're going to lose us. Um, Also, geranium is another one. It smells so nice. And that's called aromatherapy. If you've never heard of aromatherapy, look into that. You'll be surprised at how helpful those essential oils can be, just breathing them and smelling them and having the brain send the message just based on the scent for the body to calm down. It's really powerful, the studies they've done on that. Another thing I won't spend too much time on because it's probably been addressed already is to reduce that caffeine. Caffeine has been shown to increase anxiety. And one of the other things is dehydration. And when you're dehydrated, your brain is not working very well. The next thing I want to move to is write it down. One way to handle stress is to write things down. Creating a to-do list helps us to not worry that we're going to forget something. It also helps us to really see either the enormity or the attainableness of what's going on. If we write it all down and we can look at it, it's like, okay, I see that it's not as big and scary as I thought. Or we can say, look, this is quite significant and I'm going to enlist help. It just brings us in a clearer state of mind of what's going on. And we're going to be doing an activity later to help us to break down things that are too enormous for us to just be able to deal with. We talked about in our last session on procrastination that sometimes we avoid doing things because we are overwhelmed. So stay with us. A little bit later, we're going to do an activity on how to break things down. The other thing I wanted to mention is make a journal entry. If you sit down and you write out what's going on and what you're thinking and feeling, focus on the positive when you're writing, that can help the mind to kind of shift and say, okay, this is not so terrible. So that is a really helpful thing. Another thing is to spend some time with friends. You know, when we connect with friends and family, it lifts our mood and it reduces those stressors, those stress hormones, and it helps us. Another one that's on your list, number 7, is to laugh. They have shown that when we laugh, we actually affect the brain. And the scriptures told us this a long time ago. The science is relatively new, but scripture says, a merry heart doeth good like a medicine. A merry heart maketh a cheerful countenance. You'll find those in Proverbs 17 and Proverbs 15. So definitely you want to engage in things that lifts your mood. Number 8 on your list is learn to say no. I'm not going to say a whole lot about this one today because we did cover it in our meeting from the 13th. If you don't put so much on your plate, you're not as overwhelmed and the stress comes down. The 9th thing on your list, learn to avoid procrastination, because we all know, especially from our presentation last time, that when we procrastinate, it actually builds the stress in us because we know we should be doing something, but something else is getting in the way and holding us back. So if you're finding yourself in high stress, go back and look at your handouts and do the activities from the previous meeting to be able to get the procrastination monster tamed down. Now, the next thing, number 10, is to keep a gratitude journal. And I'm going to show you a book that is over here on the side. It's going to be brought to me because we couldn't show you on the system. The giveaway that we're doing today is a gratitude journal. And I don't know if you've looked at these online. There are so many different ones, but when we practice the act of gratitude, it changes things. And when we begin to do that, it helps us. Number one, we don't see our identity as everything's messed up because we can see the bigger picture of the good things that are going on. This is the book that we are going to be giving away today. Oh, they're telling me we have it. Okay, that is awesome. So in this little book, there are many different pages. And if you shop for gratitude journals, you'll find that you can get them where they have quotes in them, right? And then they have pages for you to reflect and write about the different things that are going on. And they also have activities to help you to get in a better state of thinking. Now, like on this page, you've got a couple of different questions to go through and answer. This is the book that's going to be given away in the drawing. Now, if you want to have an entry for getting this gratitude journal that's about a $20 value, you ask us a question. As you've joined us live in the Zoom chat or on the YouTube chat, send in a question about the things that we're doing today that you've heard. If the question is related to our event today, you will have an entry for every related question that you ask, and you will be able to then have a chance to win this. All right? So when you make a practice of keeping a gratitude journal, you are putting yourself in a better state on a regular basis instead of just doing it when you're in the middle of that crisis. If you do this in the middle of the crisis, guess what's going to happen? You're not going to remember these tools and these tips. You want to be able to make a practice of doing these things. You want to incorporate in your life time with friends and family. You want to incorporate in your life exercise. You want to be getting the sleep. You want to be avoiding the procrastination, and you want to keep a gratitude journal. And somebody out there is saying right now, oh man, I've never kept a journal. I don't do that. I have always, in my over enthusiasm for life, wanted to keep a big full journal, and I have not succeeded at doing that. What I did succeed at is just writing a sentence, because that sentence is enough to remind us without writing out the whole entire thing. And then when you look at these journals with all of these different pages, you've got different activities you can do that don't take very long. So play around a little bit. If what you are starting to do in a gratitude journal is not working as an activity for you to do on a regular basis, find a different format. If you just have to go down to the one question, then that's what you do. It's okay. Find something that works for you that you can have as a regular thing to do. I'm going to leave you to read the rest of that list yourself. But I want to tell you that you have a little bonus in your handout that gives some tips on taking a break. Because for some of us, when we are stressed out, we say, I just need to take a break. But often what we do for taking that break is hurting us, puts us into procrastination, screen time addiction, shall I say. And so you've got a little cheat sheet in there that's 5 things that you can do to calm yourself down in a hurry. And they're simple things. So be sure and take a look at that. I can give you just a little glimpse of it here, I think. Are they seeing that on the screen? Do they have the 5 tips? I don't know. I might not have one of those up here with me. Oh, I do have one. I don't know. Do they have it? Okay. So here's the 5 tips. This is what you're looking for. Now, if you have not registered, you don't have the handouts. And so you don't know what I'm showing you. But if you will email us at stepstohealthchewelah@gmail.com and get registered, you will get all of the handouts for today. This little cheat sheet here, I actually have it in a plastic folder in my scheduling notebook, because sometimes when I go and I sit down and I know I have to deal with things, I'm already having some stress, and I see that and I'm like, okay, I can take a few minutes and do one of these, and then I'm ready to make progress. So that's a good thing for you to have. Now, I want to take just a couple moments and give you one other thing to keep in mind. The acronym is CALM. Okay, this is a bonus. It's CALM, C-A-L-M. C is to celebrate God's goodness and claim his promises. Remember, we talked about trusting the divine. And why? Because he's good. And if he's given us promises to help us, we want to celebrate his goodness and claim his promises. The second letter of that acronym CALM is ask for help. When we need help, let's ask for it. We all need help sometimes. There's nobody that doesn't. So ask for help. The L is leave the matter with God. If you've prayed about something and you've given it to him, don't take it back and run off. Leave it with him and trust that he has your best interest, because the Lord cares for you. And the last thing is to meditate. And the scriptures say that we should focus on whatsoever things are pure and lovely and of good report. That's where we want our mind. Those are the things that are going to help us. Now, the goal is not the problem. It's the system that is. So you need to incorporate these things into your life and not expect that they're going to be the backup when you're in a crisis, because as I said, you're not going to remember the crisis. All right, now we get to do something else, and I'm going to show you another handout. And this one is titled 12 Terrific Foods That Can Help Relieve Stress. On that list, it's in your handout. You see it on the screen there. There's 12 foods on that document, and it explains the benefits of adding those foods into your diet. And because we want to do that, we have for you today a special demonstration. Marty Howland is going to share a Mediterranean recipe with us, and you'll be able to see a delicious dish that you can put together fairly easily and have it for the hot summer days. So we are going to turn the time over to Marty now.
Good afternoon. I'm glad you're here. And we do. We have the perfect salad for you for this hot weather. And as Belinda was saying, the foods in this are so good for your health, for de-stressing. And when you look at the different colors that we'll be putting into this salad today, we have red, we have greens, yellows, purples, all these beautiful colors. They can't help but cause you some joy and some de-stressing. Now, I'm not sure that they'll have the recipe up on the screen for you. If you would like to get the recipe, please register at stepstohealth@chewelah@gmail.com. Again, if you would like to get the recipe, send an email to stepstohealth@chewelah@gmail.com. Okay, now some of the ingredients in this salad. This is a salad that's wonderful for making ahead of time. Okay, they have the recipe up there. So this is good because I did make part of this recipe ahead of time. And this is something you can do very easily also. What I did is I cooked the pasta ahead of time, especially in this hot weather. You might want to cook it early in the morning. And then if you don't have time, you can put the rest of the ingredients in later. So I prepared the pasta. This uses orzo pasta. And orzo pasta looks like big white rice when it's cooked, and it's very delightful and very fresh. If you can find it in the whole wheat, that's great. If you want to do gluten-free, you can always go with quinoa, and you can even probably swap out some cooked lentils for it. But I use, just according to the recipe, I just use the white orzo. And definitely cook it to directions. It needs to be al dente to really make the salad taste like it's supposed to. This recipe also calls for some extra virgin olive oil. And normally you might put that in later, but since I prepped the pasta earlier, I went ahead and added that oil to my pasta, that it would help keep it separated until I was ready to add the other ingredients. So it calls for 3 to 4 tablespoons of olive oil. You can leave that out if you like, use a little less, whatever works best for you. Okay, now it calls for 1 medium red bell pepper diced finely. And I'm going to go ahead and put that in. And I think I better use something quieter than that. And as you're going to see, this is really a very simple recipe. Now it also calls for half of a medium red onion. And what I did sometimes red pepper gives you a real acid flavor. And so if you soak it in the lemon juice first and then add that to your salad, I think you'll find that you will not suffer from the onion burp. So I went ahead and did that. So just note that the lemon juice that's in the recipe you can add later. It's out of the way. Then it calls for 1 can of drained, rinsed garbanzos or chickpeas. All of these ingredients are really very inexpensive and easy to find. And this is a salad that's full of fiber and very good for you. It also calls for 1 can of artichoke hearts. Now I use the one that's in water. It just has a really nice flavor. It doesn't overpower the salad if you use the marinated ones, but it is your choice. You can do as you wish. And if you are wanting to cut back on the oil, then you can use the artichoke hearts canned in water. And let's see. And then we have 2/3 cup sliced Kalamata olives. If you don't like Kalamata olives, you can use ripe green olives. You could use, I was thinking of something. I really can't remember what it is right at the moment, but you could use green olives in place of the Kalamata. 2 cups of diced cherry tomatoes, not diced, but halves. Put those in. As you can see, this is getting to be a full bowl, and it's going to be full of all sorts of good things, lots of good fiber. I don't know if this will show or not, but this is where we're at. Okay. It also calls for 2/3 cup of pine nuts, or rather 1/2 cup. These pine nuts, I thought were going to be hard to find, especially in our little town, but actually you can go to Safeway And they have just the right amount in this little package, and it was under $4. May seem pricey, but it really adds a nice flavor to this salad that definitely gives the Mediterranean flavor. It does call for toasted pine nuts, but when you toast these, do it on a very low heat. These toast very quickly. Don't walk away. Don't get distracted. Pay attention. It took like 2 minutes or less on a low heat. So just be really careful with that. And then the other part of this is a half cup of chopped parsley. You put that in. And then the seasonings, I just use dill and a little bit of salt. You can adjust this to your own taste for the salt. And then we're just going to mix this up. And that 1 pound of orzo is going to make quite a large salad. So as you tally all the ingredients and you think, oh, this is going to be expensive, really by the amount of food that you have, it will not be a waste of your money, and it won't be too expensive. Let's see, now the garbanzos, you can find like grocery outlet, Walmart, any of those places. That's pretty easy to do. And oh, I know what I was going to tell you. This was one of my fun things. Lemon juice. You can use the jarred lemon juice and it works. But if you really want a nice flavor, get some lemons, juice them, and then just freeze it in little jars and put it in your freezer. And then when you need fresh lemon juice, you just pull that out of your freezer and it just adds such a wonderful flavor to your salad. So I'm just going to mix this up here. And that really is about all that there is to it. It's full of color. I'm going to put some in a bowl here for us. And of course, like most pasta salads, it'll be better the next day, or if you can let it sit and marinate for a little bit, it will be better. You can also throw in things like, you can put in toasted almonds instead of pine nuts if you'd like. You can put in cucumbers. There's all sorts of variables that you can do with this. So I'm going to put some in here. As you can see, it's colorful. It looks yummy. And I imagine we're all going to be tasting that here when we get done. And it is really the perfect salad for when the power goes out, because you don't need the power for anything other than cooking the pasta. So let's do that. And then maybe you can take it to a picnic that you're going to, or a get together for a company that happens to show up that you weren't necessarily quite ready for, but makes a good dish to keep on hand also. So anyway, well, my little parsley's just wilting here. Anyway, so I hope you enjoy this and that you can fine tune it to your taste, adding the salt and lemon. That will really help. You know, another thing that would be good to add to this, if you don't want dill, because it does call for dill weed, you can add fresh mint to it and it's wonderful. So there are many options. So thank you.
Are there any questions about the recipes? If so, let us know right now by either the chat windows in Zoom, if you're on YouTube, or you may email us at stepstohealth@chewelah@gmail.com. And also remember those questions and entries for the giveaway. I also want to mention that if you are wanting the recipe and other handouts, you have you have not let us know yet, please do so by email. In our next segment, we will see some stress reduction tools in action, which we can really appreciate now with all the technical difficulties we've been having, a double power outage. Anyhow, Belinda will be sharing some activities with Lynn Yoder, and you can basically do on your own to reduce your stress, which we all deal with stress. It's obviously very beneficial to be able to manage that. So if you pre-register, the activity handout was in your email for this morning. And if you did not pre-register, but want to have the activity handout, that's easy. Let us know by emailing us again at stepstohealth@chewelah@gmail.com. And we'll get back to you, regarding the handouts as soon as we can. And also, I should mention, let us now take any questions that you may have regarding the recipe for our first segment. And I'm looking here and I don't think there is any questions yet, but if you have any questions, send them in. And I'll field those questions to Marty and Belinda. So far, no questions. Perhaps that's good. Oh, I think we might have something coming in.
Okay.
Okay, no questions at the moment. All right.
Now,
Well, here's Belinda.
remember, if you want to be able to win the gratitude journal, the way you have that opportunity is to ask a question. So go ahead and jump out there and ask a question so that you get an entry. Otherwise, I have to keep that gratitude journal for myself. And honestly, I brought it to give away to one of you that have
That's right.
joined us and endured this power outage production today. So if there's any questions, just going to give you a moment before we go to our next segment.
While you're thinking about those questions, I could tell you, did you learn some new things? I mean, I learned some things. We had some stress today, just dealing with all the unexpected issues. So it's wonderful to know how to manage these stressful situations. And these tips are helpful. We're always going to encounter those situations. And it looks like we might actually have a question. Yes, here we are. Can the handouts for the next presentation be sent out now so I can get them printed in the library ahead of time? At the library ahead of time. That's a great idea.
That's a good question. And I will do my best to send them out in advance. As I create the program, I put the handouts together. I know we're not going to have as many in the next one, but thank you very much for bringing that to our attention. That's something for us to remember for future programs. So we will get those sent out to our registered participants as soon as we have them, to try to give you some time. Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that question.
So is this our final time now for the giveaway?
No.
No? Okay, good,
No.
good. So then while you're sending in your questions, let's see, where are we going to take off next here?
Our next segment is the activity.
Okay. Simple as that?
It is.
All right, let's do it.
So you can ask questions about this segment in the next one, or even from the presentation. You don't have to have your questions be only related to the current segment. You can have it during the last time. So there'll be another time for asking questions.
Now, are we going to mention what's coming up later on the 11th?
We will, but we'll do that after we finish this
Okay.
next segment. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So just stay with us.
Stay with us.
We're
30
gonna
seconds, 15
go
seconds.
to another set and do our next segment. So get your activity
Thanks.
papers out. All right, so here we are. And we have a very interesting activity for you that we're going to start out with. And that is an adrenal rest. So I'm going to explain just a little bit about an adrenal rest. As I was talking earlier, how your adrenals basically get fatigued because they can't produce more of the chemical for our activity and energy. There is a way that you can help your body to kind of have a little bit of a rest and a reset. It's not a permanent fix, but it's really helpful. And so my very cooperative friend, Lynn, is down on the floor, and I want you to see the position that she is in. She has her feet up on the chair, about to the back of her knee, and she is laying down. And you think, wow, that looks like a really simple thing. In this adrenal rest, you want to lay there for 5 minutes. Here's the part that's really hard. You don't do anything during that time. And for those of us that are multitaskers, high achievers, that even means you don't read a book. What you're going to do in the time that you're laying there on the floor is you're going to breathe and relax your body and relax your mind. Don't think about your shopping list, your trip, your this, your that. You're just going to relax and feel your body relaxing and settling into the floor, kind of. This lets the body take a break of pumping the adrenaline fluid, and then it can do a little bit more. If you've ever had a well, sometimes the well fills up very slowly and you can't pump as much as your pump would ask for. This particular little exercise of laying on the floor for 5 minutes is going to help give a little bit of a reset. You want to get up to 15 minutes, and I will tell you, the first time I did it, it nearly killed me to get to 5 minutes because I don't sit still like this. But I had serious adrenal fatigue and I needed to do that. And once I did, I was able to then do it longer. And if you can do this a few times throughout the day, it's really going to help you, especially if you're needing to build your health with nutrition and different things like that to give your body more support. So that's an easy thing. You could do this at your office and anywhere in your home. You just get your legs up and you rest and just try to do nothing. I know that sounds impossible, but don't think of it as doing nothing. What you're actually doing is letting your body system reset so that it can start pushing energy through you again. Okay? Now we're gonna let Lynn get up off of the floor and we are gonna get into our next activity. Our next activity, you're gonna find your action plan handout. And I don't know that we're able to show that. So I'm going to get that. And do you have your notes? I'll let you get a copy, and I'm going to show our participants what that looks like. Save it for the next question. So here is our action plan handout. This is a template. So you can make copies of this and use it as many times over as you want, okay? It's in your handout. If you don't have handouts, again, send us an email at stepstohealthchewelah@gmail.com and we'll get you all of the handouts so you can start doing these things. All right, now we are going to have a little visit. My friend Lynn and I, she has graciously volunteered to be our bit of a guinea pig in this little process. Now, before we start this, I want to take your mind back to what we did on the 13th. On the 13th, we talked about some different techniques for stopping procrastination. And I understand that Lynn tried one of those methods out, the 5% method, which is I'm just going to do 5% of my project. And I want Lynn to share with us how she found that once she had tried that out.
Yes, I went home
And I was thinking about some of these things that I had heard. And first, let me give you a little bit of a backstory. In the fall, when we do our gardening cleanup and the yard cleanup and try to put everything away for the winter, I got sick with bronchitis. And so I ended up not getting everything done. And so I thought, well, I'll do it in the spring. Well, come May, then my husband and I ended up getting sick and in the hospital. And so everything is just piled up. And so for the longest time, I was just letting the weeds go. I just looked at them and closed the drapes, so to speak, on them and ignoring them. But after hearing Belinda say, well, just do 5%, I thought, I can do 5%. And so I got up in the morning, even though I didn't feel like going outside or doing anything. I went outside and I pulled some weeds and I thought, well, this isn't too bad. I ended up working for an hour, which I had not planned on. And I did it the next day and the next day and the next day. And so after a whole week, I've got all the big weeds down. It's just all the little weeds now.
So that 5% really it started adding up, didn't it?
That really added up and that really connected with me.
Yeah.
It was something that I felt like I could do because it was, I'm not obligated to do a whole chore. I'm not obligated to do 10 minutes or half hour. I'm just going to pull a few weeds. And I thought, well, a few more. And pretty soon I had quite a bit done.
Yay. And did you find that that took the overwhelm away, which was getting in the way of the
Oh, yeah.
procrastination?
Yeah, that really took a lot of the anxiety of procrastinating away.
Awesome. Awesome. So you heard it. Live application. Try the 5%. If you haven't done any of the tips from the last meeting a couple weeks ago, try that one. And as you begin to see that you're having victories, you can incorporate more things and it's not so daunting. Now, would you like to understand how you can break down a big, overwhelming project? That's what we're getting into next. So that handout that I showed you earlier, we are going to go through that and you're going to see some of the thought process of how to make that work, okay? So your action plan at the top, you need to put what the issue is, whether it's a goal or whatever, what's the issue? So we decided we were going to tackle the organization monster today.
Yes.
So what would you write for issue on your paper?
Organization. Actually, I think one of my little things that I tend to do is when I come in the house, I just take my purse off, set it down, put my groceries on the table, and whenever I get to them, I get to them. So I'm a plopper. I
Okay.
just plop things, and pretty soon the whole house is just plopped all over the place.
Okay. So would you say that the issue is things are piling up? Or is the issue that there's not appropriate places to put things? What would you write on your list?
Kind of a combination of both.
Okay, okay. So things don't have a home and they're not in their home.
Right.
Okay, so that's
Right.
your issue.
Yes.
Based on that, you want to create a goal. Now, your paper explains that you need to have a SMART goal. And what SMART means is it's got to be specific. It has to be measurable, attainable, relevant, and there has to be the time sensitive aspect of it. We want to create a SMART goal for the lack of home and things going in their home. What might a title be for your goal? You could just call it a home for everything. Because that's the big encompassing.
That's the main thing right now is I don't have a place for everything. I think I've collected too many possessions.
Oh, okay. See, she's starting to get into the action steps. Okay. So you have said that you have too many things. There's not a home for all the stuff that you do need to keep and hold on to. So when you look at your little chart, you have step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and step 5 under the heading of action steps. This is where we want to be specific. And you've already touched on one thing, which is that you have too many things. So would it make sense to you that your step 1 would be to begin eliminating the things that you don't need or want anymore? Would that be a
I think
logical
that
step
would
for
be a-
you?
I think that would be a good beginner step.
Okay. So what you would write on your paper then is, and you'll need probably a little bit more room than that box, but you can add pages. You would write to eliminate the unnecessary.
Yes.
Okay.
Like I had 2 timers. I
Mhm.
don't need 2 timers in the kitchen. I could get rid of one. I could give it.
There you go.
To the Goodwill or something.
There you go. So to make that one specific is you would put a list of the areas of your home and say in the kitchen, eliminate, and you can write down the specific items. You'll probably find more things as you're going through, but that's okay.
Yeah.
As you've thought, you're going to write down, eliminate the timer, the extra, whatever. Now, the next thing is the responsibility. Who will do it? The reason that's there is sometimes steps require the help of somebody else. And you might have to mention to your husband, hey, I'm not using this. I don't know if you are. Do you mind if I get rid of it? So if that's the case with the things you're working on, you would put your name and his name. Okay. If you
Yes.
need to involve him in that step. Then the timeline. When are you going to do the elimination in the kitchen? Look at your calendar
Yeah.
and be realistic, because you've got to say, okay, by when? When am I going to get that done? That's part of the attainable aspect, right?
Mhm.
And the relevant part. Now, do you need resources for doing that step?
Probably a box to put stuff in to get rid of.
There you go. There you go. I think you guys are seeing the process here. Now, what about communication? As I already mentioned, you might communicate with your husband. So you would put that under that heading about communication. Identify who needs to know what's going on. Maybe you know of somebody that's just moved into a place and you think, well, I'm going to share these things with them. That would be another thing to put in your communication column, right?
Right.
Right? So potential barriers, that's the final column of each of these steps. What do you think might be a potential barrier?
I'm too tired, so I'll do it tomorrow.
Okay. So in our last thing, we talked about having a backup plan, right? If you plan to do something in a new habit and it's not going to happen, what's going to be the backup plan? You
To do
said,
the 5%.
okay, that's one of the
I
backup
just do
plans.
5%.
There you go.
So I've started.
There you go. And then if you do have to reschedule it, you will actively do it.
Yeah.
Instead of generically saying, I'll do it later, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't know about any of you. I've never seen the word later or someday on any of my calendars.
No.
It's not a day of the week, right?
No.
Okay. So when you're choosing to not do something that you've given yourself a deadline for, then you're going to take that action to get it where it belongs, right?
Right.
But I really love that she says, my backup plan is the 5%, right? Because you've still done something. And even if you have to stop at the 5%, you've still done something, right?
Yes. Yes.
Right. Okay. So
And that's manageable. It won't be so overwhelming. It's like, well, I'm tired, but I could still do the 5%.
yes, yes. Awesome. Awesome. So now in dealing with the home for everything goal, there's going to be more involved than just getting rid of what you don't need or want anymore, right?
Right.
So what would your second step look like? Once you've gotten out everything that doesn't need to be there and it's not in the way anymore, what would you want to do next?
Then not bring anything more home unless I'm switching out something to replace it so that I don't run out of space.
Okay.
And then when I get home, if I put it away right away before I even sit down,
Okay.
then I'm more likely to get it done.
Awesome. So did you see what she did there? It's that it is an action step in the sense that she's choosing now something going forward to not add to the enormity of what's going on, right? And so she's still going to put that on step 2 and go through the specifics, the responsibility part, the timeline on that. This is an ongoing thing. So you would leave it that way. And then what are the resources? You know, the first A is the resources that you already have available. And then B is what you would need. And if there's something that she has to do with each of those steps, she would write that out. But you see, this template is very flexible, and don't think to yourself, oh, that's not a legitimate step. Yes, it is. It is a step. It's a step to a completed process that becomes part of her life so that she doesn't have to come back around later because, oh, it happened again. Why? Because you're creating a system that keeps it that way. Okay. So let's think about a third step. Okay. So you've gotten rid of what you don't need, and you have set some parameters to be able to go forward. So now what do? You've got things going on. What's going to be the next step in this process that you'll be able to begin working on next?
Not sure.
You're not sure. Okay, so I've been privileged to talk with Lynn separate from our time here, and I know that she's got some boxes in her basement that are an important part of her goal for getting things to a home. So what can you do with those boxes next? Now that you've gotten rid of all the obvious things that you don't need, what could you do with those boxes?
Well, I got to take the boxes and take them to the Goodwill. And then the boxes that are downstairs that I haven't got to yet, then take one of those and start going through that same process over again.
All right. Now you heard her say take one of those, right? So she's not going to open every box and dump it in the middle of the floor because that will overwhelm you in an instant, right?
I've already done that a few times, and by opening, okay, so what I did is I brought all the boxes upstairs, 6 or 8. So now they sit there. They've been there like 3 weeks. And it's like, no, just bring one at a time because you're not going to do all 8 at one time. So just bring one at a time.
Awesome. Awesome. So she's going to bring one box at a time. And some of the specifics that you may want to write down there is that as you take things out of those boxes, you are going to determine, is there a home for them right now, whatever the item is, and you will put that in. So you're going to have a list of questions for yourself that you will write out.
Okay.
Does it have a home? Do I still need this? Right? Because you didn't get into the boxes when you got rid of the obvious stuff.
Right.
And then if it needs a home, you can make another step of starting a list of what kind of organization systems might work for that item. Okay. But you have one other step that you'll have to do there. You're going to have to decide where to put that item until it has a home. She's like, I don't know if I want to say, put it in another box. But that could work for you.
Well, that's true. I have found in the past when I'm going through things, some things are easier to go through and get rid of and find homes for. And there's other things it's like, okay, I got to think about this for a while. So if I have a box set aside for the things that I need to think about for a couple of days, that would be good.
Okay. So you might label that box pending items.
Yes, pending.
So you know that when you get into that box, it's the harder level of decisions, right?
Yes, yes.
And that you're going to have to create another step on here of creating organization system for the homeless items,
Yeah.
right? Does this sound workable for you?
Yeah, it does.
And do you think if you're laying each piece out and giving it separate deadlines, that it's not only going to be attainable, but it's reasonable that you can accomplish it as you go through, even if you have to use your 5%?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I hope that the activity makes sense. This is a template you can use over and over. It's yours. Do what you like with it, but if you use the process, it helps you to break things down in those manageable steps. And so Lynn, now see her smile. When I talked to her about her boxes before, she wasn't smiling because she was overwhelmed, but she now has a system where she's going to be able to start making progress. And what do you think your final step is going to be in this system?
I'll go, yay, when it's all done. I'll tell you the next time we get together, if there's a little space in the program, I'll tell you how it went.
Okay, we'll have to try to sneak that in. Now, don't forget, I told you last time, celebrate. So each time you complete one of these steps, celebrate the progress.
Okay.
Okay. And your final step is to reinforce that boundary that you built in step 2, which was how you're going to not have that grow and happen again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're going to bring stuff in, it's going to go right to its place. And I have to tell you, we think that it takes a long time to put something away and that it's a lot faster to just set it by the door. It's not. If we just walk to the closet, walk to the drawer, wherever it is, and just put it right where it needs to go, it's there when you need to find it. It's not in the way, and it literally only takes seconds longer. So try that out this week. And I'm looking forward to finding out how this organization monster has been totally tamed to finding a home for all of your
Thank you.
things.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. So now we are going to have our facilitator come and join us. And
Welcome again. So did you learn anything about how to manage stressful situations? I'm sure you did. And I have noticed that we have some questions coming in, so keep sending those questions. One of our questions was about the adrenal issue.
Okay.
So if you're laying on your back and your feet are up,
right.
they wanted to know if you can listen to soft music, or is that nothing enough?
There's certain types of music, and if you go to your handout on the different ways of relieving stress, the 14 ways of relieving stress, one of the items on there talks about the soothing music for the relaxation. Certain types of music, very soft piano, some classical pieces. Think about the tempo of the music. If it is very soft, you can have that playing in the background, but I would make sure that it's instrumental, because otherwise your mind, even though you don't think you're thinking about what you're hearing, your subconscious is busy working on that. So you can have that, but if you can do it with no input whatsoever, no music, that's going to be the greatest quantity of rest that you're going to get. So for those of you that are going to have a challenge with that, like I did, maybe start with the soft music. And then once you find yourself laying there and you're not so agitated to jump up and run, then try it without the music.
Very good.
Okay. Do we have any other questions?
Well, I was thinking of one myself.
Okay.
Okay, so what I've experienced, like what we had today, wow. Power just
Hey,
came
we
back
have power.
on. We had quite a bit of difficulties. In fact, I wasn't even able to be there for the opening facility work. So, I mean, here we are. We're actually living a stressful situation, or at least a difficult situation. So what would you recommend for a situation that is very stressful, and you don't really have any way to escape the environment.
Okay, so I will tell you what I did today. I used essential oils, and we talked about that earlier in the steps. I have a little tiny bottle of essential oils, and it's called Stress Away, that has some of those essential oils that I had mentioned earlier in the bottle. And as I was running around trying to facilitate and the power disappeared and all of that, I just opened my bottle. I breathed it in. And I prayed, because the Lord can sustain me with grace and poise
sure.
and joy. And meanwhile, the olfactory system was working using those essential oils. And that's what I did. And that's what I had to do when I was winging it, because our facilitator was trying to figure out the power issue. So that's something you can do at any time in any place.
Looks like we do have a winner.
There were no more questions?
Yeah, I was going to say this is your last chance to send in your questions, but it looks like we're there. The winner
Okay.
of the drawing is Mrs. Stepban.
Stepban. We apologize if we're not pronouncing that correctly. You are the winner of the gratitude journal, and what we need is your address. So please email us. We know that we should have your registration, so email us the same, steps to health, Chewelah @gmail.com, so that we can have your email address, not your mailing address, excuse me, your mailing address. And then we will be able to mail out that gratitude journal for you. And we really hope that you enjoy it and put it to good use. And for those of you who were hoping that you would win the journal, or you were too shy to put your questions out, let me encourage you that if you go online and you search for free pages gratitude journal, you will get a lot of options, and you can kind of play with those pages that you've downloaded and create your own gratitude journal contents. Okay, so I just want to encourage you that if you're not able to go purchase a gratitude journal and you weren't our winner to get your free one, you can search for some free
I was going to mention, the Bible actually says, the Bible endorses to count your blessings and name them one by one. So I wanted to mention also that on July 11th, register, there will be a reminder about the next meeting sent by email. And if you did not pre-register but want to let us know by email, you can email us by at stepstohealthchewelah@gmail.com. And we'll get that information to you as soon as we can. And I also wanted to, I guess, again, thank Belinda for all of her efforts in sharing this information.
Oh, well, you are quite welcome. And I have to thank our AV team that put together a remarkable way of still coming to you live today without power. They have done remarkable. And if you are grateful for the AV team bringing this to you today, please give a thumbs up or a smile or something in the chat and let them know how much their hard work has mattered to you. Now, there is one other thing I want to tell you. If you are new to joining us and you have not registered and you decide to register, we will send you the link for the previous episode, and you'll be able to find the playlist there for this entire Steps to Health series that has been ongoing this year.
Idea.
and you will get all of the handouts from this current mental wellness series as well. So go ahead and do that. And if you're watching this on YouTube and this is not even the time for the live, but you still want to send us an email because you're super interested in what's happened, go ahead and do that. We will try to respond to you down the road when we see that email and still get you these things. So thank you very much for joining us. Did you have anything else before?
Well,
prayer?
yes, I just thought to mention that this does conclude our second program for mental wellness series, but our next meeting will be in 2 weeks on the 11th. So remember that, jot that on your calendar. And it's going to be at the same time. It'll be live, just like we're doing now, live stream. And I don't think we'll have any power outage. So we're planning on that. So certainly if you have any questions or you want to register to get all the handouts from the programs, just email us again at stepstohealth.chewelah@gmail.com. And before we part, let's have a word of prayer. Thank you, Father, for helping us through the challenges we had today. Real life challenges, a real test of stress, but yet we all had to implement what we learned. And so we pray that you would bless our friends watching this program live and those watching it later by recording, that they too would receive a blessing and be able to benefit others by what they learn. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen. Thank you all. We'll see you in 2 weeks.